Hello, my name is Alfan Fajar. My student number is B1024201005 and I'm from Management International class. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the Human Resource Management Chapter 6, which is about the recruiting and labor markets. First, what is recruitment to 3 experts? The first expert is Yoder. Yoder said that recruitment is a process to discover the sources of manpower to meet the requirements of the staffing schedule and to employ effective measures for attracting that manpower in adequate numbers to facilitate effective selection of an efficient working force. The second expert is Edwin Filippo. He said that recruitment is the process of searching for prospective employees and stimulating them to apply for jobs in the organization. And the last one is from Faustino Cardoso Gomez. Faustino said that recruitment is the process of finding and attracting applicants for employment within and by an organization. And recruitment is very important in an organization because it brings several benefits to a business, like helps companies hire talented individuals, and recruitment also allows companies to hire individuals who value the same principles as the company, and it also connects companies with professionals for future job and ensures that companies hire individuals who can help grow their business. And I already watched the first video on YouTube. The first video is about HR basic recruitment from the definition, and there are also 3 essential concepts of HR recruitment. The first concept is employment brand. The second one is recruitment process that has 3 primary elements that are planning, job posting, and communication. And when we do the planning, we have to consider how much money, how much time, size of audience, and level of job. And the third element is the recruitment method, and there's internal recruitment and external recruitment in the recruitment method. And I also already watched the second video on YouTube. The second video talks about 3 recruitment methods. The first one is the IQ or GMA test, which is the most common one. And the second is the unstructured interview, and the third one is the structured employment interviews. I also have watched the third video, and it's about the recruitment process in HR, and the process should be effective, efficient, and fair. And the first step is defining the role. The second step in recruitment process is to build a profile of the ideal person. The third one is attracting applicants. Fourth is selecting the right candidate. Next is the interview, and the last is make decisions based on the process that we have already done. And I also already read the HR headline on page 177, and this HR headline is about passive recruiting becomes active. And from this HR headline, I learned that there are 2 types of job seeker. The first one is the active job seeker who is looking for a job actively, and the second is the passive job seeker who is not actively looking for a job but recruited by a company. I also learned from this HR headline that passive job seeker becomes more popular since we have internet to find passive job seeker. And what does recruiting require an employer to do? So recruiting require an employer to first know the industry and where to successfully recruit qualified employees. The second one is to identify keys to success in the labor market, including competitors' recruiting efforts. Third is cultivative relationships with sources of prospective employees. And the last requirements from the recruiting for an employee is to promote the company brand so that the employer is known as a good place to work. And then what I know about training of recruiters and managers is that training on recruiting related activities such as communication skill and job specific details is very common, and also those involved in recruiting should learn the types of actions that violate the EO regulations and how to be sensitive to diversity issues with applicants. And such training areas often include appropriate language to use with applicants so that racist, sexist, and other inappropriate remarks do not hurt the image of the employer and result in legal complaints. And then the labor market components, there are some labor market components. The first component is the labor force population. which is the broadest labor market component and measure all individuals who are available for selection if all possible recruitment strategies are used, is the labor force population. And the second component of labor market is the applicant population. It is a subset of the labor force population that is available for selection if a particular recruiting approach is used in the recruiting method. And the third one is the applicant pool consists of all persons who are actually evaluated for selection. And the last one is the individual selected. These are the people who pass the recruitment process. And there are some considerations for determining applicant populations. The first consideration is the number and type of recruits that is needed. And the second one is timing of recruiting to ensure timely placement. And then the next is external and internal messages on job details, qualifications of competent applicants to be considered, sources for obtaining qualified applicants, outside and inside recruiting means to be used, and the last one is administrative recruiting and application review activities. And recruiting for smaller firms could be challenging because people tend to apply for bigger firms than the smaller ones because the people already know the advantages of working at a bigger company, at a bigger firm. So for smaller firms, it can be challenging to recruit their new employees. And what I do know about labor markets is that labor markets refer to the supply of and demand for labor, in which employees provide the supply and employers provide the demand. And it is a major component of any economy and is intricately linked to markets for capital, goods, and also services. And I am going to explain some couple terms. The first term is the recruiting presence and image. It is actually one of the most important recruiting strategy, and this recruiting presence and image strategy includes, first one is the employment branding and image. This is the image of the organization that is held by both employees and outsiders. And company brand can help generate more recruits through applicant self-selection. The next is the professional employer organizations and employee leasing. This is a specific type of outsourcing uses professional employer organizations or PEOs and employee leasing. The employee leasing process is as simple as an employer signs an agreement with the PEO, after which the staff is hired by the leasing firm and leased back to the company for a fee. And in turn, the leasing firm writes the paychecks, pays taxes, prepares and implements HR policies, and keeps all the required records for the employer. And the next one is the regular versus flexible staffing. This is another strategic in recruiting in human resource, and this is a number of employers that have decided that the cost of keeping a regular workforce has become excessive and is growing worse due to the economic situation, competitive and governmental considerations. And flexible staffing uses workers who are not traditional employees, and using flexible staffing arrangements allows an employer to avoid some of the cost of full-time benefits such as vacation pay and pension plans. And then the next is the temporary workers. So temporary work or temporary employment refers to an employment situation where the working arrangement is limited to a certain period of time based on the needs of the employing organization. And then the next term is the independent contractors. This is an individual who may run their own business but also performs work for other businesses. And individuals classified as independent contractors are not considered employees of some businesses. And then the next term is the recruiting and EEO, diversity considerations. This is one of the strategy in recruiting in HR by considering the diversity for our workplace from the genders, races, ethnicity, religions, nationality, etc. And then the next is the internet recruiting. This is one of the ways in recruiting in HR, and the growth of internet nowadays has occurred employers to do some action, such as the first one is the adjusting general employer recruiting systems to use new approaches. That includes first identifying new types of recruiting for specific jobs, and second training managers and HR professionals on technical recruiting sources, skills and responsibilities. And then e-recruiting means. So e-recruiting, or also known as online recruitment, it refers to the use of web-based technology for the various processes of attracting, assessing, selecting, recruiting, and onboarding job candidates. Through e-recruitment, employers reach a larger number of potential employees because internet is unlimited. And then the next is recruiting and so internet social networking. So social media recruiting is the enterprise use of social media platforms to identify, engage, and vet individuals the organization may want to hire. And this HR practice, which is sometimes called as social hiring or simply social recruiting, uses social media sites and other internet-based options such as blogs to reach potential job candidates. I also already read the HR on the job on the page 190, and this HR headline is about effective recruiting using an employer website. From this article, I learned that there are some important guidelines to creating an effective website, including the first one, we have to make the site easy to navigate, and the second, we have to include information that people want to seek, and then the third is use qualifying categories such as location, job function, skills, education, etc. to help the candidates find the jobs for which they are eligible at the first place. And then we also have to use self-assessment checklists to ask the candidates about experience and interests and to direct them to the jobs that fit them the best. And make it easy to apply for a job by providing the means to build a resume on the site or to paste in an existing resume. And we also have to design the site to provide recruiters with an additional way to post jobs, search for resumes and applications, and search applicants. And then last, we have to collect metrics on the site to determine its effectiveness, gather information about the site, such as the number of visitors, hits from ads, actual hires, and other details. And how do I do the recruiting using spatial technology? It is the several spatial internet tools that can be used as part of recruiting efforts, such as like blogs, e-videos on YouTube and Twitters and any other social media or internet platforms. And there are some advantages and disadvantages of internet recruiting. First, the advantages. So the advantages is the first one is that many employers have saved money using internet recruiting versus other recruiting methods or the traditional one, such as newspaper advertising, employment agencies, and search firms, and all of which can cost substantially more than the internet recruiting. And then another major advantage of internet recruiting is that a very large pool of applicants can be generated using internet recruiting because jobs literally are posted globally, so potential applicants in other geographic areas and countries can view job openings posted on the internet. It also improves the ability to target specific audiences, including more diverse persons, through the use of categories, information, and other variables. And internet recruiting also can save time and also can help recruiters reach the passive job seekers. As I mentioned before, that passive job seekers are those who have a good job and are not really looking for change jobs, but who might consider it if a better opportunity were presented. And disadvantages of internet recruiting is that internet recruiting often creates additional work for HR staff members and others internally because more online job postings must be sent, many more resumes must be reviewed, more emails, blogs, and Twitters need to be dealt with, and expensive specialized software may be needed to track the increased number of applicants resulting from internet recruiting efforts. And another issue with internet recruiting, which becomes the one of the disadvantages of it, especially individuals from lower socio-economic who cannot access the internet because some applicants may have limited internet access, and groups or certain racial or ethnic groups who cannot access the internet as well. And in addition, many individuals who access internet recruiting sources are just browsing who may submit resumes just to see what happens when they submit it, but they actually are not actively looking for new jobs. And then the next is the external recruiting sources. There are some sources of external recruiting. They are media sources, competitive recruiting sources, employment agencies, labor unions, job fairs, and creative recruiting. And the last one is educational institutions and recruiting. And there are some advantages of external recruiting sources because the advantages are new sources bring new perspectives. Training new hires may be cheaper and faster because of prior external experience. New hires are likely to have fewer internal political supporters in the firm, so it could decrease the conflict in the firm. And then new hires may bring new industry insights and expertise, but if there's advantage also, of course there's also disadvantages of the external recruiting sources. So the disadvantages are the firm may not select someone who will fit well with the job and the organization, and the process may cause moral problems for internal candidates who are not selected. And the last is new employees may require longer adjustment periods as well as orientation efforts for those new employees. And there are some things that should be included in an effective recruiting advertisement. The first one that should be included in an effective recruiting advertisement is the information on the job and on the application process, which includes job title and responsibilities, geographic or flexible location of job, starting pay range, acceptance of online applications, where or how to submit applications or resume details, closing date of application. And then the next thing that should be included is the desired candidate qualifications, like years of experience, 3 to 5 key characteristics of successful candidates, and special useful work capabilities. And the next thing that should be included in the effective recruiting advertisement is the information on the organization, such as the organizational values and culture, an EO employer, primary business capabilities, and unique characteristics and recognition of the company. And after I told so many things about this chapter, in conclusion, this chapter is about recruiting and labor markets. What have I learned from this chapter is the definition and the importance of recruiting in human resource management and the essential concept of recruitment. And I also learned about the process of recruiting and the methods that can be used in recruiting labor, like the internet recruiting that is really popular nowadays in the industry and in the human resource management. And that's all about the human resource management chapter 6 that talks about the recruiting and labor market. Thank you.